Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world. I am at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, middle of nowhere, Georgia. Double secret location on double secret probation for those of you who get the reference. Hope everybody is doing all right today. Coffee Talk. And this, of course, is Coffee Talk Live, or if you're looking for me on YouTube, at Coffee Talk Live or Prepper University on YouTube, simultaneously broadcast on both channels as we get ready to discuss some of what is boiling over in the news, or maybe a few things that you didn't know about. I can also be found on Fistful of Radio. That's fistfulofradio.com. Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Again, as we get ready to jump into what's going on the news today, or in the news today, you can see one of the cats there sleeping in the chair behind me. For those of you who can see, and for those of you who are listening and not able to see, naturally, I do try to sift through as many of the comments as I can for those who join us live so that you can get a gist of the conversation. And I'll go ahead and acknowledge a few of the people that have popped in here so far. I see Dilo is here. He says it's 6:38 a.m. where he is. Helter is here. Dragon, Urban, Preparedness Veteran is here. Boogers, Monkey is here. RL30 is here. Bulldozer says he can't stay for the whole podcast. Well, I appreciate you popping in anyways. And of course, it should be saved on YouTube unless I get in real trouble. Stacy Lynn is here. Spectre is here from Texas, the border state, one of the states that gets hit the hardest with the fake pretend border crisis that isn't actually happening. Just ask USA Today, which has really degenerated it into an extremely far left liberal platform. And I got an article from them here that'll demonstrate what I'm talking about in a moment. Wanted to make a point of letting everybody know, if you have not seen this yet, that they are going to test the emergency alert system on your phones, I think Wednesday. Yeah, there it is. NBC News nationwide emergency alert will be sent to all U.S. cell phones on Wednesday. So they've done that once before, but expect it again. No sense reading through the article. There's no point. You get the idea. It says Wednesday, 2:20 p.m. Eastern time, when a message will be sent to all cell phones, TVs, and radios that this is a test, national wireless emergency alert system, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. So when you get that, don't panic, because that's what they want. That's what they want, is for you to panic and get annoyed at your phone. Bulldozer says, what does Bulldozer say? It won't come up. Northwestern Colorado here. Okay. And Bingo is here. Thanks for joining us today, Bingo. As we continue on with the news, again, nationwide emergency scheduled for 2:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Wednesday, just so everybody will know. I hate that, actually. It's annoying. It's always a test. I get the point of it, but whatever. And all those other alerts, I've turned them off on my phone now that you're able to actually turn them off, because you didn't used to be able to, but now I shut them off because I don't need an Amber Alert at 3:13 a.m. in the morning telling me that in three states over, I'm supposed to watch out for a brown sedan. It's pointless. It's absolutely pointless. I wonder if anyone has ever actually been caught with Amber Alert, with people actually spotting vehicles and reporting it when a child is abducted, as opposed to usually they get caught with a traffic camera, or especially if they go on the highway and a camera picks them up. I think that's how it works. Preparedness says, I hope it works better than the test in the UK. In the UK, that didn't go down too well. Around a quarter of people didn't receive it. At least it was only a test. Monkey says, unless it says missiles inbound, message like what happened in Hawaii. Yeah, there you go. Which is also why they need to test it. Now, speaking of evil government, I know nobody mentioned the evil government, but you all should know better by now. There's a lot of evil that goes on in the government, including this. And this is not something that's popping up in the news feeds, but you should see this. And this particular one is from the Miami Herald. See, I had to go to a local newspaper to get information on it. Pentagon official accused of killing dogs that performed poorly in dogfights. Oh my. And it's not just one. This is just the one they got. All right. And one more here, one more comment. Prime Mover says Amber Alert is some guy that got screwed in family court that just wants to see his own kids. And sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes, will you guys cut it out? Go get that. Sometimes that's what it is. But here we go. High-ranking Pentagon official has been involved in dogfighting since at least 2002. Okay? So more than 20 years. And is accused of executing dogs that performed poorly in fights, according to a federal criminal complaint. Department of Defense Deputy Chief Information Officer Frederick Douglass Moorfield, not Frederick Douglass, the escaped slave book writer, but Frederick Douglass Moorfield Jr., 62 years old, of Arnold, Maryland, and his friend Mario Damon Fly, 49, of Glen Burn, Maryland, are charged with facilitating a dogfighting ring. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Maryland announced in an October 2nd news release. On September 6th, FBI searched Moorfield's home, where they found 5 caged pit bull-type dogs in a windowless room of his basement, along with items used to strengthen dogs for fighting, including weighted collars and heavy metal chains, and a device used for involuntarily inseminating female dogs, the affidavit says. Agents found bloodstains from dogfights on the walls of Moorfield's basement and an electrical plug and jumper cables suspected of being used to kill dogs who lost dogfights, according to prosecutors in the affidavit. I'm sure it can't just be this guy involved. There's got to be more people. You know, it's funny how this always turns out to be one person. The guy is a senior official at the Pentagon. Other people were involved. They're not going to be shown. You're not going to find them. There's always a scapegoat, as Fauci will someday discover. There's always a scapegoat that gets blamed for it. But this has been going on for more than 20 years. My understanding of it is, from looking at a couple of other articles on the subject, that he did dispose of them by way of electrocution, so on and so forth. It says Pentagon spokesman Lieutenant Commander Tim Gorman told the Washington Post the Department of Defense is aware of the criminal complaint filed against Moorfield, who no longer holds his Pentagon position. We can confirm the individual is no longer in the workplace, but we cannot comment further on an individual's personal matter. Yeah, I bet you can't. Let me catch up a couple more of these comments real quickly. All People has joined us today. Deanna says, when I get Amber Alerts, I pray for the child. I got a number of flash flood and an occasional tornado alert, so I'm not turning those alerts off. Okay. And Preparedness says, when it comes to animals, nothing surprises me. To that official, is probably a business venture, just shows the caliber of people we're dealing with. Correct. And Bam says he'd probably get a slap on the wrist. Remains to be seen. It depends on how public it gets. Like I said, look where I had to go to get an article on this that I could even read through. Nobody's talking about this, unfortunately, and it should be talked about. All People says Frederick Douglass. No way is that his name. Preparedness says revoke his vetting security clearance and jail him. Prime Mover says animal abuser should be hung at the public square. Yeah, that touches a nerve for a lot of people. I mean, look who you're talking to. I basically run a cat shelter in my backyard. And All People says, what a psycho. May him and his coven burn in hell. No kidding. And Monkey says, I bet this won't even be mentioned on mainstream media, or in the chance will get mentioned and be moved on. And Monkey says within a few days. Yeah, it might, if it circulates enough, it might make it to mainstream, and then it'll fall off the radar as the next big thing comes along, because that's what happens. Now, I had mentioned USA Today earlier, and I had an article of theirs that I showcased last week because they did fact checking on immigration, and I wanted to point something out about that fact checking because it was deceptive. They fact checked something else other than what they were talking about. They talked about the fact check was, of course, that illegal immigrants do not pay taxes, do not pay rent, do not pay medical expenses, things like this. And they said false. That's false because immigrants do pay all that. But they fact checked legal immigrants. And the article they were attacking was talking about illegal immigrants. They pulled an okey doke with that article. And they're doing it again. They're doing it again. One more comment and I'll show you the article. All People says the Biden administration placed a female pedo who works with the kill list Clintons over the federal Amber Alert system. Interesting. As I get the USA Today article open, and they claim, if it pops up, no, America is not seeing an unprecedented surge in immigration. New census data proves it. New census data proves it. Oh, okay. Okay. And it's amazing how milk-soppingly dripping weak USA Today has become in recent years, where it's so extreme left, super Democrat, ass-kissing liberal. It's disgusting. You know, I can understand somebody wants to be Democrat, liberal, whatever, but there's a line beyond. It's a one step beyond kind of a thing and over a cliff. And that's where USA Today seems to be in recent years. Article says the Census Bureau this month published its most robust estimate of the U.S. immigration population, and it cast doubt on the central Republican criticism of President Joe Biden that immigration has spiraled out of control on his watch. In fact, the new data analyzed by our team at the Cato Institute indicate that the number of immigrants is still 2 million below the Census Bureau's 2017 predictions. The hyperbolic rhetoric should take a backseat to the verifiable data. Take Stephen Miller, former advisor to President Donald Trump. By July 2022, he had already announced that President Biden had eradicated his own nation's borders. Of course, this is a goofy conspiracy theory. Borders divide governmental jurisdictions, which it should go without saying haven't changed, and they have nothing to do with the number of people who cross them. But the new census data makes the claim risible for another reason. The immigrant population has only risen marginally, and it says the immigrant share of the U.S. population is just 13.9%. According to the American Community Survey, the Census Bureau's annual mini census, the immigrant share of the U.S. population rose just 0.3% points between July 2021 and July 2022, reaching 13.9%. Okay. First of all, 13.9% of 100% is still a lot. 14 pennies out of a dollar is still plenty when you're talking about populations. Second of all, they're talking about legal immigrants when you're talking about the census, okay? Legal immigrants, not border crossers. And thirdly, they're citing that in 2017, the Census Bureau made a prediction and that the number fell below that prediction. That's a prediction number. And it's a prediction number based on legal immigrants, not illegal immigrants. No illegal immigrants are being counted in this type of a census. No illegal immigrants are in a census of immigrant population predictions. USA Today is presenting this as if they're talking about border jumpers, people that are coming in our northern and southern borders, and that's not what those numbers are for. And it's misleading. It's deceptive for them to do stuff like this. And that's the second time in roughly a week that I've caught a USA Today article doing that. So let me catch up a couple more comments here really quick. DIY says, have you seen in Band of Brothers when the nurse used bed sheets for bandages? I can see that being a thing in SHTF, as long as they're clean. And 1,000 Yards says, you're actually using verifiable data on the border when they're not even counting the people coming across. That seems insane to me. Yeah. And it's not even, I mean, you've got three groupings. You've got the legal ones who are coming into the country that the census are talking about. You've got the illegal ones that are being counted and paperwork being done for them at the borders. And then you got the ones that they don't see or catch, which is at least equal to the number that are being counted. When they say 2 million crossed the southern border last month, it could be 3.5, 4, and they don't know. Plus, that's not counting the people coming across the northern border. And that's what USA Today is doing, is taking just the official census data for legal immigrants and acting like that's everybody. Monkey says census would mean illegals would have filled out some form for record keeping and data tracking. Bet you it won't be up within 25 to 50 million illegals. And Urban says, when it comes to propaganda, I don't think anything beats the BBC and the CBC, along with global CTV, etc. No kidding. And Bam says that means you have tens of millions of illegal invaders, correct? And Preparedness says, just don't question or delve into the details these days. They're taking us for epsilon morons. Yeah, that's it. I mean, and again, this is something I talk about a lot. You've heard me say many, many times, people are not that smart anyways. People are not that smart. It's true. They're not. But they take that for granted. There are people whose jobs it is in media, in government, to take advantage of that fact. And even when people come around and figure it out, there's nothing they can do about it. There's nothing they can do about it. It's like the expression, the sheep are waking up. I hear that all the time. And of course, my answer to that is you can wake up the sheep, but they're still just sheep after all. What do you think they're going to do? Nothing. They're going to do absolutely nothing. But they know most people are not smart. They're counting on it, and they take advantage of that. They take advantage of that. It's insulting to those of us who know better. And it's disrespectful to those who don't understand and are misled and have to give the rest of us a hard time because they don't know any better. Like those people who screamed at you for not having your mask on when you walked into the Quick Trip. Or the Walmart, you know what I mean? You don't have your mask on. You're going to make me sick. It's your fault. We're all dying. Now, this is how you handle illegal immigration. And this comes from Reuters about Pakistan. See if you can find this in the news. Pakistan orders illegal immigrants, including 1.73 million Afghans, to leave. They want the immigrants the hell out of their country. They're sick of it. Pakistan, including almost 2 million just Afghanians alone. That's what they're saying. Just 1.73 million Afghans. Never mind the rest of them. They told them to get the hell out. Islamabad. Pakistan on Tuesday ordered all illegal immigrants, including 1.73 million Afghan nationals, to leave the country or face expulsion after revealing that 14 of the 24 suicide bombings in the country this year were carried out by Afghan nationals. It was not immediately clear how Pakistani authorities could ensure the illegal immigrants leave or how they could find them to expel them. Oh, they can find them. Even a third world country like Pakistan can find these people and get rid of them if they want to. Any country could do it. It was not immediate. Oh, I read that. Islamabad's announcement marks a new low in its relations with Kabul that deteriorated after border clashes between the South Asian neighbors last month. We have given them a November 1st deadline, said Interior Minister Safraz Bukti, adding that all illegal immigrants should leave voluntarily or face forcible expulsion after that date. Bukti said some 1.73 million Afghan nationals in Pakistan had no legal documents to stay, adding a total of 4.4 million Afghan refugees lived in Pakistan. So basically, 40% of the population, he says he knows is illegal and he wants them out. There are no two options that are that we attacked from within Afghanistan and Afghan nationals are involved in attacks on us. He said, we have evidence. Okay, that's how you do it, folks. They're fed up with it. There's been suicide bombings, and they said, okay, you know what? You all need to get the hell out of here. And we're going to make you leave on your own now while you can, or we're going to round you up and throw you out. Preparedness says was an interesting snippet of a film at the Polish border, pepper spraying and water cannon involved. Huh. And Flukeman says, read an article a few years back about a French girl in Canada, gone to take pictures at a refugee. She got tricked going into a tent and gang attacked. Yeah. Bam says Pakistan population 241.49 million. Yeah, well, they're going to reduce that by about 3 or 4 million people here shortly. And you know what? It'll take a lot of burden off their country. I'm not a big fan of Pakistan either. I'm not, but I understand this. Preparedness says those Afghans, they'll head to Britain now. Yeah, that's right. Oh no, sorry, Preparedness. Flukeman says even when she screamed, nobody even tried to help her. That's a damn shame. That's the way of the world right now, unfortunately. I bet you they would have filmed it for TikTok if they could. And Bulldozer says, thanks for all you're doing, brother, and made a $20 donation to the channel. Well, thank you, Bulldozer. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Doing my best. Just trying to reach out to people, get conversations going, get people thinking. Of course, mostly I'm preaching to the choir, Bull. But maybe someone else will see it and it'll sink in. You know what I mean? Dragon says, from a practical standpoint, Pakistan is going to have a hard time accomplishing this task by the November deadline. Well, November 1st is for them to make up their minds to leave on their own. After that, then they'll move with phase 2, is basically what's being suggested there. And yeah, I mean, Pakistan, they're brutal enough to pull it off. They'll get it done if they really mean it. Hey, Granny, come on. Come here, Granny Smith. Come here, Granny Smith. She rarely comes this deep into the house. Very fearful animal. Laying in the doorway there. There's Granny. Hi, darling. She's the one that's crippled. She can't, one of her legs doesn't work very well, and it's difficult for her to put it to the floor. We still haven't been able to verify an appointment for her with the vet. We've got the 3 kittens are going to be adopted out. There's Dusty on the floor right there. And then there's one of the kittens sleeping in the chair behind me. The kittens are going to get adopted here shortly. Granny, we might end up keeping her. But she rarely comes this close. Doesn't like other cats, but has really been hanging under me a lot lately. Getting back into the comments, for those of you who can't see what's going on, I apologize, but surrounded by stray cats and adopted cats. Urban says, speaking of Poland, it looks like another color revolution is getting going, most likely U.S. led, since Poland has not really been playing along with EU and U.S., etc. Well, that's why Biden gave them a $2 billion loan to try to bribe them. Helter says they didn't evict the Afghans when the Afghans in Pakistan were the Taliban for the past 20 years. Well, I guess they've had enough. And Monkey says, crazy how Western countries can't act like how it should be. If there's illegals coming across, you get them out. It's sad third world countries show us all how countries should deal with illegals. Yeah, expel them. And again, just like was pointed out when Elon went to the border and did a journalist's job for a change, because God knows the media outlets in this country aren't doing it. And the representative at the border and the sheriffs at the border made it clear, yeah, we're in contact with the leadership in these other countries. And they said, send them back. We'll take them. We'll take them. All you got to do is get them here. It would be cheaper than feeding them and housing them and clothing them and dealing with the crime and all the rest of it. All people says even Islamic nations don't want Mohammedans, Africans, or Caribbeans migrating to their nations. And there's Johnny. Johnny says he's sorry he's late. No worries. Bam says when they start to round them up, making an example, the smart ones will leave at that point. Yeah, that's very possible. And all people says, is Granny a 20-pounder like Uncle? No, she's not a very big cat, actually. You'd almost think she was a kitten. She doesn't look like she's even much more than a year old. But already fixed. She's already been fixed. Her ears clipped. And there's sign, and when I got her, her teeth were protruded, so she hadn't been that long since nursing. So there you go. Now, we talked about this. So if she comes any closer, I'll pick her up real quick so you can see her. Dusty, don't act like that. Hold on a second. Come here. Cut that out. Dusty was being rude. I had to break that up before she tried to fight with her. But as we jump into this again, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and so I'm going to expand on it a little bit. And of course, that's Governor Nuisance and his pick for replacing Feinstein. Urban says, I keep seeing and hearing snippets of rumors that U.S., Mexico, and Canada are be part of a newly formed North American Union. Anyone hear anything? I've heard that. It's a lot of conspiracy. They might form a union, but that doesn't mean they're going to be under one form of government. And they already is a union through ANZUS, right? With the, not ANZUS. I'm thinking of something else. There's already a trade union between the three countries as it is. And Johnny says other countries only say send them back to us because they know we won't. Well, that used to be how it was done, though, especially in South America. That's why we used to shuttle them down there in buses. And all people says, LOL, Granny sounds like she's a baby. How cute. Yeah, we call her Granny Smith, like the apple. Thank you, Bulldozer. He says NAFTA. I couldn't remember. Courtesy of Bill Clinton. NAFTA's Bill Clinton's baby. He screwed that up. This comes from the Western Journal, this article. It says, scandal hits Newsom's pick to replace Feinstein. Mad scramble to make it appear she's Californian. As I understand it, she was born in Mississippi or something, right? Born in Mississippi or Louisiana, and lives in Maryland. And there's more to it than this. Lives in Maryland, has a residence in California. But the reason she has a residence in California, I haven't even read this article yet, but I'll just tell you what I know, is very heavily involved in California politics, even though she doesn't live there. She lives in Maryland. Her driver's license is for Maryland. Her voter registration is for Maryland. Maryland is her primary address. She is close to Washington, D.C., and she works in Washington, D.C., and is involved in California politics from D.C., but she's not a California resident, even though she has a small property there. What she's involved with is she's very heavily into pro-abortion rights, an advocate for that. She is very heavily involved in unions, in getting involved in union business, and she's very heavily involved in doing fundraising for Democratic political activists and politicians, including Kamala Harris. She did a lot of fundraising for Kamala Harris. So now they're throwing her in here because she clicks 3 boxes. Okay. 1, she's black. 2, she's a female. And 3, she's a lesbian. She's a lesbian who is married to another lesbian who has an adopted child. So much for being pro-abortion, because they wouldn't have been able to adopt if that kid had been disposed of. One more comment here from Fluke Man. It says illegals home, nations are willing to take them back. Should tell the Democrats they're now super LGB friendly. No kidding. Now, what they say here in the Western Journal, the appointee to replace Senator Dianne Feinstein, who died last week, seems to check all the boxes. There you go. That California Governor Gavin Newsom promised when he talked about who would fill Feinstein's seat were she to pass. He promised that the replacement would be a black woman, according to ABC News. He did say that. And behold, LaFonza Butler is. No kidding. He also promised she would be none of the 3 top contenders for the seat in 2024. California Representatives Barbara Lee, Katie Porter, and Adam Schiff. Obviously, she's none of them. Butler also carries far-left bona fides, having been the president of Emily's List, a political action committee that backs pro-abortion candidates for higher office. There you go. If only she were, actually a Californian. Yes, it seems that Newsom's appointment, while indeed a great pick for the left-leading faction of the California Democratic Party, has hit a bit of a snag, given that Butler is a resident of Maryland, according to her bios on social media and the Emily's List website. LaFonza grew up in Magnolia, Mississippi. Okay, I figured it was either Mississippi or Louisiana. I couldn't remember. But she grew up in Magnolia, Mississippi, and attended one of the country's premier HBCU, Jackson State University. The profile reads, she lives in Maryland with her partner, Neneki Lee, and their daughter, Nyla. It appears Emily's List has removed the final line in LaFonza's Butler's bio, that states she lives in Maryland. Oh, so now they've deleted that part. That's convenient. This, meanwhile, was her social media profile before and after. Nice. So that's the pick. And she's not even a resident, and that's a requirement. And is anyone going to stop it? Is anyone going to do anything about that? They'll protest it, but is Governor Newsom still going to be allowed to put her in that position? And will she be permitted to actually run when the election comes up? That's the question. I'll tell you, we're going back to the feudal system, people. Monkey says if a governor said it would be a white woman, everyone would flip their, yeah, they would flip out. Helter says, are they going to hold every other senator to account for not living in their state? I seem to recall them being very generous with support for Dr. Oz a few years ago, despite him not living in Pennsylvania. Yeah. And Prime Mover says, so much for judging by content of character rather than skin color, gender, or sexual orientation. MLK turning in his grave. He's spinning so much there should be an earthquake right in that cemetery. Zane is here. Thanks for joining us today. Monkey says, also, wasn't there a court ruling on people not allowed to be involved in other states if you're not from said states? Yeah, well, apparently that doesn't apply to California because she's very deep in their politics, even though she's hardly ever in California. Dragon says she can't be a senator in California. The Constitution is clear on this. You must be a resident of that state where you are a senator. Yeah, well, rules for thee, not for me. Urban says, did Obama ever produce the long form of his birth certificate? I don't believe he ever did. Johnny says her Maryland residence is only a minor inconvenience, can easily be modified. I know. And Zane says, yes, the feudal system. Yeah, we're getting there. We never really left it. It just didn't seem that way. Monkey says, I learned about it in my college government class, but forgot the court case. And All People says she's also post-65 Caribbean migrant lineage and an alphabet member. Yeah, so she checks a lot of boxes. You missed number 5, that she's pro-abortion, because they love that. They love you disposing of children. It gets scary because I've actually read articles from people who were claiming that they would do abortions because they counted it as a form of sacrifice because they were into Satan worship and things like that. That's pretty frightening when you look at it from that perspective. Obviously, not everybody does it for that reason. And I don't like the idea of it being used as a retroactive form of birth control either, because there's plenty of alternatives. There's really no excuse. And I've told you, I'm sure most of you remember my story about that person that I knew from Boston who had had 6 abortions and just thought of them in terms of retroactive birth control. Like, oh, well, yeah, I'll just have an abortion. And then the last one botched and she can never have children. And then she's going to sit there and cry about it. And I'm like, you're going to worry about that now? You never heard of a condom? You never heard of birth control? Seriously? You did that to yourself. Fluke Man says, but who's the actual governor of California? If she's running California, who's going to run Washington? And speaking of milksop Democrats, how about something from Bill Clinton? How about something from Bill Clinton? Bam says, probably also click the boxes if you can't speak about it. Yeah. Bill Clinton, this comes from the American Insider. It says, breaks with the Democrat Party. Not exactly what it sounds like. It's not what it sounds like as I read into this article. God, he looks terrible. He looks terrible. Former Democratic President Bill Clinton says immigration is broken under Joe Biden and we need to fix it. Apparently, he didn't read that article from USA Today. After reversing the border policies of Donald Trump, Biden triggered an unprecedented and historic surge of illegal immigration at the southern border. Clinton says it's time to end asylum and sanctuary city laws that Democrats have been supporting. Wow, that's a bold statement coming from him. Referring to New York City's right to shelter law, Clinton argues it should be modified. It's broken. We need to fix it, Clinton said, adding that the law doesn't make any sense. As an asylum city, New York City has required shelter for illegal immigrants and the homeless for 40 years. With thousands of illegals in the city, they are being fed, sheltered, and vaccinated at local hotels. This puts an enormous strain on taxpayers and causes significant debt. They come here and we're supposed to shelter people who can't get work permits for 6 months. We need to change that, Clinton said. They ought to work, Clinton continued. They need to begin working, paying taxes, and paying their way. Most of these people have no interest in being on welfare. Oh, they don't? See, this is where he takes a sudden change in direction. The wind changed a little bit. First of all, he needs to distance himself, him and his wife, and a lot of other leading Democrats need to distance themselves from the Biden administration because it's insanely unpopular. Second of all, he says it's a broken problem that needs to be fixed. And you sit there and you're like, okay, yeah, wow, he's right. Yeah, we need to change that. We need to stop this. But his solution to it is to give them jobs. And then implies that, oh, they don't want to be on welfare. They don't want handouts. Yeah, sure, Bill. Sure, Bill. That's true. Oh, man. And then, of course, the ultimate thing here, they want them doing what? Paying taxes and paying their way. Pay your fair share. Come on, man. Come on, man. Pay your fair share. We should build more housing just over the Rio Grande in Mexico. I think I would support that, he said. Really? So we need to build them houses. I thought you wanted them to pay their own way, Bill. Keep people there and let them in as quickly as possible if they're going someplace where we know they can get a job and they'll be welcome. Oh, no. Bill, you disappoint me. Let me see. Oh, and Bull says he's got to run. Be well. Thanks for joining us today. Zane says we have too many people here today. No, the more the merrier. Johnny said it's easy to be pro-abortion, but when something happens to a pregnant woman, they all scream, she's pregnant, she's pregnant. Yeah, I know it. All People says there was a woman written of in the New York Times or New York Post that hailed from Puerto Rico and was technically Catholic, yet claimed to have had 15 abortions as retroactive birth control. Johnny says, funny how ex-presidents are involved in politics more than when they were in office. Good point. Urban says, border bait and switch from Bill Clinton. The solution is not to deport them, but to give them work permits. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, they want them to have legal means of working so that they can tax them, basically. But then he wants to waste even more tax money than we already are to build them housing on the Rio Grande. Yeah, that's a brilliant idea, Bill. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. Zane says, even then, let's be fair, that wouldn't stop Jack. No, it's not stopping anything. We need to stop the constant flow coming in. One, he's pretending to distance himself from the Biden administration, but then his solutions are no better than what we already have. And this is what Biden's already doing. Again, giving 500,000 work permits to people in Venezuela, to Venezuelan immigrants that have come into the country. That's all it is. It's just a way to tax them. Just a way to tax them. And spend and waste even more tax dollars. It makes no sense. Urban says, imagine all the extra Democrat voters got to vote Democrat or get deported. Yeah, that's what they're hoping for also. And that doesn't make sense. Again, a lot of these people, if they're legitimately coming to this country to seek asylum, are escaping exactly what this country is turning into. Why would they vote for it? You want to see AOC? You probably don't. This is from the Daily Mail defending Jamal Bowman, who still doesn't have a legitimate explanation for what he did. It says AOC leaps to the defense of Jamal Bowman, claiming he pulled fire alarm in a moment of panic at government shutdown vote. Yeah, that's what it was. He panicked. He was trying to interrupt the vote, and he's going to get away with it. Progressive Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has leapt to the defense of fellow New York Representative Jamal Bowman as he faces criticism for pulling a fire alarm in the Capitol on Saturday. If I did that, I'd still be sitting in jail. AOC told CNN's Jake Tapper on Sunday that Bowman's actions occurred in a moment of panic, exacerbated by the pressure and chaos of attempting to avert a government shutdown, which Congress successfully did late on Saturday. I told you there wasn't going to be a shutdown, didn't I? Because it's a smoke show. It's smoke and mirrors. It's a shit show. All that shutdown we hear ever since the Obama administration. It's been accelerating every few months now. Oh my God, the government is going to shut down. No, it won't. No, it won't. It's not going to happen. I think there's something to be said that the government's about to shut down. There's a voting clock that's going on that exists and the normally open that are normally open in that building were suddenly closed, said Ocasio-Cortez. Tapper responded, so he pulls the fire alarm. AOC then attempted to defend her colleague by attacking the GOP for protecting New York Congressman George Santos, who is facing an indictment centered on money laundering and lying to Congress. Bowman put out a statement claiming that while in a rush to make it on time to vote for a stopgap spending bill that would keep the government open, he activated the fire alarm, mistakenly thinking it would open the door. Okay. And there he is on camera doing that. So rather than trying the door, you pull the red box that says pull for fire because you thought that would open the door. She always looks crazy in her pictures. Whenever I see her, I think of Jan Brady, all outraged and confused. So he mistook. Is there a pull handle? Usually when there's a device for automatically opening a door, it's the big silver box with a blue outline of a wheelchair on it that you press. Not a fire alarm? Or is he just that much of a moron? Is he just that much of a moron? Zane says Japan needs people. Let's send them there. I don't think they want foreigners. Prime says just cut off the welfare and all the wrong people will self-deport. Hopefully. Flukeman says a couple of decades ago, British news mass-produced reports on a daily basis, like from a cheap Chinese factory, that Britain had a lack of housing problem, but didn't say what caused it. And Prime Mover says he was trying to change the battery in the smoke alarm. And Eric says, right, when you're losing a debate, you go for the Republicans and or Trump. Yeah, that's what she did. She tried to redirect the question. I mean, you're basically assuming that this guy is that much of an idiot that he doesn't know what the fire alarm is. Johnny says, if you made a life emergency decision in a moment of panic, then what other decisions has he made under normal circumstances? That's a good question. And Helter says, every time AOC talks, I can't help but think how low the bar must be in order for a person to be a congressperson today. Her excuses for Bowman's juvenile acts is as ridiculous as his actions were. Yeah, Zane, Marsha. Oh my God, Bowman, you just don't understand. It's always about Bowman. All people said AOC is airhead of Congress. Dragon says most politicians play us like we're stupid, but she takes it to another level. AOC is trying to redirect her colleagues' actions to the Republicans. And Johnny says if there was no fire, he needs to go to jail no matter how he felt, quote, felt. And Zane wants to know, can I get into Congress? I don't know. Can you? All people said Japan rejects foreigners, migrants, even as workers. Japan prefers robots to migrants. I can't say I blame them. They don't want their culture. They had a big cultural revolution uh, because of the interference from the West way back more than a century ago, as did China when they rejected everything Western, when they had their revolution. Um, no, they don't want foreign influence. And I can't say I blame them. They don't want to lose their cultural identity. Their cultural identity is already at risk. Bingo says, of course, Clinton is purporting that he stands to make millions if his construction companies get the contracts. Good point. The companies he stole when he was governor of Arkansas. Don't get me started on when he was the governor of Arkansas. Good God. Because, yeah, there are tales to tell in that area. But, yeah, AOC, Marsha. That's what I'm going to call her from now on. AOC, Marsha Brady. AOC Brady. And she's got that just glazed over look. And again, I wonder if these people are really this stupid or if it's an act. If it's all an act to keep us all sidelined and confused, it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me if that's what was going on. Johnny says, didn't he used to be a school principal? Correct. So he should know about, yeah, very good point. I believe he was a school principal, wasn't he? And again, you know what a fire alarm looks like. It's in the red box with the white highlights, and it says "pull in case of fire" or something like that on it, or "break in case of fire." And then again, a device for opening the door typically is the silver box with a blue outline of a wheelchair on it, because it's supposed to be for handicapped people, and you pop it. And preparedness is just wondering how many different languages in the emergency alert going to be in. Yeah, good question. I have no idea. Prime says AOC plays us like we're stupid because most of us are stupid. Repeal the 19th. Yeah. You know, you won't get an argument from me about that. Most people are not that smart. They're really not. And they can be easily manipulated, especially when you get their feelings all wrapped up in it. And people like this know that. I wouldn't be surprised if AOC was a freaking genius and this was all an act to keep us confused and divided. Fluke Man says, assuming the button next to the door for disabled people are quite low for those in wheelchairs, the fire button looks quite high. It usually is. And Zane says he would move to Japan. And All People says the Japanese have even married robotic dolls and holograms rather than wasting time in relationships with foreigners, economic migrants or not. Oh, somebody's waking up back there. If you can see my little buddy moving around, getting comfortable. Granny Smith moved. But again, if she saunters by, I'll try to pick her up so you can get a closer look at her real quick. She don't move around too much because, again, she has trouble walking. Poor Granny has trouble walking. As we cascade into the next article, here's another one that you won't find in the regular news media, and this comes from Reuters. If it ever comes up, there we go. International Longshore and Warehouse U.S. Dock Workers Union files for bankruptcy. There should be a question mark on the end of that. A series of question marks and exclamation points. Apparently, no one ever watched Electric Company, because that is a powerful union. And they just won a huge bid. I mean, they got people that are barely doing their jobs making $250,000 a year. The International Longshore and Warehouse Union, the ILWU, representing U.S. dock workers, has filed for a Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection to resolve pending litigation with the Oregon affiliate of the International Container Terminal Service Incorporated. The union has listed its assets and liabilities in the range of $1 million to $10 million, according to the September 30 filing made in the San Francisco court. So they don't know if they have 1 million or 10 million or somewhere in between, huh? And where are their assets? God knows they charge enough dues. Why don't they have any money? That would be my question. While we have attempted numerous times to resolve the decade-long litigation with ICTSI Oregon, at this point the union can no longer afford to defend against it. Scorched earth litigation tactics, said ILWU International President Willie Adams. We intend to use the Chapter 11 process to implement a plan that will bring this matter to a resolution and ensure that our union continues to do its important work for our members and the community, he added. ICTSI said in a statement to Reuters that the bankruptcy filing was the union's latest maneuver to avoid its accountability. The union is facing a looming trial over allegations it illegally slowed down operations over several years at the Port of Portland, then operated by an affiliate of Philippines-based maritime company, according to a Wall Street Journal report. I believe that. Because that sounds like a union tactic. The ILWU, which has over 4,000 members across the United States and Canada, said it will file customary first-day motions with the court to maintain its cash management system as part of its reorganization process. The union in August ratified a 6-year contract for U.S. dock workers that improved pay and benefits for 22,000 employees at 29 ports stretching from California to Washington State. Yeah, those guys are making a fortune. And the ports in the U.S. under the ILWU are considered to be some of the most sluggish and poorly run in the world. They are considered to be some of the most inefficient ports and docks in the entire world. And you've got people, employees now, making from $250,000 to $300,000 a year under your new contract because of tactics like what Oregon is trying to sue them for. And you barely have $1 million in funding and you're filing for Chapter 11. We may have $1 million, we may have 10, we don't know. Where's that money? That's my question. International Longshore and Warehouse Union dock workers. Where is that money? Why are your union workers not questioning this? Because they got a bigger paycheck for doing basically nothing since they suck at their jobs, apparently, according to international standards, where in most places they've got manual labor unloading stuff. I mean, I'll catch up a few more comments here real quick. All People says Biden's senility is also an act that he's doing all to avoid legal accountability. And I've speculated on that before. Plausible deniability. You never know. Zane says U.S. Japanese are around 1% of the total Japanese population. Monkey says I want $250,000 to do nothing. Me too. Where's my money? Shit. All People says unions are a joke and a scam. You don't have to tell me. Urban says fire the top 3 union leaders and that'll be enough for operating expenses for at least another year. And Helter says automation will eventually replace them. This has already happened in LA. And often enough, I've seen many, many stories about unions. Watch American Greed. Great show. One of the few true reality shows out there. It's a docudrama talking about stuff like this. Very often there is a story on that show about union officials robbing the union coffers blind and getting away with it. I mean, they get a slap on the wrist, a couple of years in jail, and they stole like $128 million or something. And that money is supposed to go to taking care of workers if they strike. It's supposed to take care of funerals, stuff like this. That's what you're paying into the union for, not so that they can steal. I want to know where that money went for the Longshore and Warehouse Dock Workers Union. Where's that money? They've got to be making a fortune in dues. Monkey says 2024 is going to be an interesting year with how the Democrats are going to deal with Biden. Yeah. I want to know where the hell that money went. That's why I thought this was an interesting story. And again, where is this story? How come nobody's talking about this? Filing for Chapter 11. Seriously. They're filing for, that could expose something too, because if they're filing for Chapter 11, their finances could get picked apart by people that they owe money to. Their creditors are going to pull them apart and they might find something. They may find a lot of shady deals. And then what? Then what are you going to do? Monkey says YouTube kept censoring my comment about the 2024 election. Well, I caught it there. I caught it there. But yeah, they do censor comments now, even as they're coming on. They do censor comments, unfortunately. And that's how it is. Preparedness says money probably went into political backhandlers. Yeah, because a lot of unions have lobbyists. And why have you got lobbyists in Washington trying to manipulate senators and representatives? Why are you doing that? Why can't you just take care of your workers? That's what you claim to do. While you take credit for things that unions did when they first formed in this country, when they made sense, when people were working 20 hours a day, when you had 6-year-olds in mines digging for coal, and that was inappropriate. And the unions fought about that, and they fought hard, and they fought against real odds when companies would hire union busters, when they would hire the Pinkertons and people like this to come out with clubs and beat them down. They'd go and give everybody on the docks a shillelagh and $5, go bust up that union, and 3,000 guys with clubs would come along, and they take credit for that, but haven't done shit for 150 years except collect union dues and steal the money. You know what I mean? And Baki says, I love your bunker videos and the video about how to build and protect your prepper group from rats. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Is anybody still watching those videos on Prepper University? I don't know if anybody is still over there anymore. YouTube crushes the hell out of that channel. And Monkey says, the only unions that I see as reasonable to be there is for electricians, iron workers, the blue trade types of jobs. Yeah. And iron workers union has done more damage than anyone, though, because it was because of them that we're in as much of a pickle as we are with unions now. All the strikes that the iron workers had in the 50s and 60s complaining about that they wanted more money. And then at some point in the early 60s, the industries in the United States figured out it was cheaper to import steel from China than it was to keep manufacturing it here, and laid half of them off. Keep your jobs or go work somewhere else. We don't care. They got tired of pandering to the ironworkers union or the steel workers unions, and had all that shit imported. It was cheaper because over there they'll dig it out of the ground for nothing, you know. And Monkey says, i.e., construction workers. And Rodney says, I, for one, still watch Prepper University. Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad somebody's out there because, yeah, both this Coffee Talk and Prepper University have been really hit hard, by ScrewTube, by Google. They've caused a lot of problems there. And Zane says, good job, companies. Greed wins. Yeah. Hi, buddy. Come here. I had a visitor. No, it's not Granny Smith. It's one of the kittens. Poor guy. He's going to be up for adoption soon. Poor little guy. I'll miss them, and I hope they go to good homes. But what are you going to do? I can't keep them all. I cannot keep them all. I can only... I keep as many as is reasonable. And most of the ones I end up with are ones that we can't get rid of because nobody's going to want them. Like Hobo, he's got no teeth. Nobody wants a drooling cat who's going to sit there and like jump up on you and try to rub on you and get spit all over you. Plus he has feline AIDS. And so when he gets sick, it's like death's door sick. So he lives on the back porch. He just loves it right there. Or old dad. Dad's like 17 years old. Nobody wants to adopt a really old cat. You know what I mean? Or Miss Kitty, who is terrified of being picked up. Stuff like that. But they always want the young ones, like this one. They always want the babies, the kittens. They're easy to rehome. They're sweet and rambunctious and easy to work with, like this guy right here. It's just a big baby. That's all they are. See? Scratch his stomach, he doesn't mind. And I end up keeping mostly the troublemakers. Or Uncle. He's 20 pounds. Who wants to adopt a 20-pound cat? They're terrified of him, but he's about as big of a baby as this one is being right now. You know what I mean? Here, sit down, honey. Yeah, Baki says, kitten. Yes, indeed. Kitten. We love taking care of the strays. Fluke Man says, unions used to beat people up in the hundreds in one go. like Broadwalk Empire TV show, actually thought it was dramatized. No, not the unions, but union busters. They used to hire people out. They used to hire people, uh, professional groups like the Pinkertons I had mentioned, could be brought in to bust up a picket line way back in the day, like more than 100 years ago. That happened. That did used to happen. And the warden is here. He says, "Good afternoon." But yeah, it's late. It's late in the day as we get ready to wrap the session up. But of course, this will be saved unless I got in real trouble. It should be still available on Coffee Talk and on Prepper University on YouTube, as well as Fistful of Radio. So you can always go back and catch it if you're late to the party. Again, at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube, as well as Prepper University on YouTube, and fistfulofradio.com, which is Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. All people wants to know if we can host with Mrs. Coffee Talk. She's camera shy. I've done some walk and talks with her, and she has some interesting points and interesting opinions. I don't know if I can get her to sit here with me. That would be nice, though, because we can get her take on things as well. I mean, all I can do is ask. But with that, I will go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. Hopefully, you got something out of the conversation. You enjoyed that, or found out something you didn't know as we talked about the news and things like that. So I will catch you all again tomorrow. Hope you have a good day.